Gintama's Red Spider arc is a follow-up to the thematic masterpiece that is the Yoshiwara in Flames arc. If you haven't seen Gintama before and feel as if you're missing context for this video, I recommend you check the description for my video on the previous arc, as I covered world building, themes, and further characterization for some featured in this one. When someone is exposed to a harsh reality, they might feel as if the person they have become is a direct result of their pain. Their experiences were out of their control, and they had no choice but to become strong and ruthless in order to survive, especially if they wanted to protect others. The world of Gintama is one that has shaped people into warriors, such as the samurai who devoted themselves to their masters. But there was another sort of warrior who sold their skills like a craft, and were even willing to sell out their own masters to the highest bidder, the Oniwabanshu ninja. But there was one highly dangerous Oniwaban who was different: Jiraia the Spider. He served the shogun out of pure fanaticism. He even went as far as to burn the flesh from his own face so he could wear any identity the shogun required of him. Once an invading alien force, the Amanto, arrived to the nation of Edo to control the Bakufu, the Oniwaban became divided between those who would continue to serve the shogun under Amanto rule and those who wanted to challenge their new oppressors. The shogun ordered the dissidents to be executed, and it was none other than Jiraia who was tasked with killing every last one of his former comrades. This massacre meant nothing to him. He had no need for bonds. His mind was focused on one thing, and one thing only: his prey. Jiraia did not allow his prey to realize they had been caught in his web. He fed them, fattened them up by devoting himself entirely to watching them flourish and grow into strong people by his own standards. Jiraiya's idea of the perfect prey was for them to become as ruthless and dangerous as he was. That was why he was so devoted to the shogun. Unlike the honor-bound samurai, his devotion came from a place of pure hunger. It was only when he was in a state of complete emptiness, having devoted everything to his prey, and that they had become everything he imagined, did he finally kill them. He would finally give in to his desire to destroy the thing that had defined him as a person, so he could enjoy the experience of killing himself. Because of his past, sacrifice and self-destruction were all Jiraia knew. He would enjoy his meal, become whole again, and move on to his next prey to experience it all over again. Eventually, he would set his eyes on a girl who showed much promise. Through his training, she would grow into someone who is a shining light for those she protected. The girl became the moon itself for Jiraia. To him, the moon was a strong, solitary light that looked over everything it loved, and that love was so powerful, it made her dangerous like him. If he could twist such a beautiful light into an image of himself, then she would truly be his ultimate and most satisfying prey, his final prey. Having been sold to work in Yoshiwara from a young age, Tsukuyo quickly realized that any hope for her to live a normal life was lost. She had scarred herself, so she was unfit to be forced to serve as a courtesan, and became the leader of the paramilitary force, the Hyaka, to protect the ones she loved, watching them from a distance, unable to truly be with them, to enjoy time spent with them. Her purpose was to be a lone guardian, sacrificing her own comfort and happiness for the sake of others. She couldn't bear the idea of enjoying a somewhat privileged life as a commander, while so many women were enslaved in her own home. So, along with the ever-patient and vigilant Hinowa, they decided to change the system from within, and to hopefully one day free their people from tyranny. Tsukuyo sacrificed mind and body for this cause. To her, it was a small price to pay for the ones she cared for. That was what Jiraia and her experiences shaped her to be. As far as she was concerned, there was no changing that. Jiraiya's training allowed her to become strong enough to overthrow the tyrannical ruler of her home. But she didn't do it alone. She had the help of those who were still loyal to her in the Hyaka, as well as Hinowa, Seta, and the Yorozuya. When Gintoki and the others first arrived to Yoshiwara, Tsukuyo and Hinowa only wanted them to leave safely and to never return. They were reluctant to allow outsiders to liberate them, because they were so determined to save the city from within without putting anyone else at risk, especially Hinowa's non-biological son. But when the enemy kidnapped Seta, Tsukuyo was forced to work with the Yorozuya to save him. After Jiraia had left her, Tsukuyo was left to shoulder the duty of overseeing the safety of her people, all by herself. So, when the Yorozuya came to help her, she had become so overly independent that she didn't even consider the idea of having others to carry that duty with. In her mind, she was the only person she could count on. But for the first time since meeting Hinowa, Gintoki's words moved her.
てめえのお日さんがよ、雲に隠れて見えなくなっちまうこともよくあるがよ、それでも空を見上げてりゃ、必ず雲の隙間から面を出す時がやってくる。だからよ、俺たちはそいつを見失わねえように、空を仰ぎ見ることをやめちゃいけねえんだ。背筋ちゃんと伸ばして、お天道様まっすぐ見て、生きてかにはならねえんだ。
Perhaps Gintoki's philosophy reminded Tsukuyo of Hinowa's optimism. It was then that he planted the seed in her mind of the possibility that there was someone else strong enough to carry her burdens with her. But even so, she told him that she was going to find this light all on her own, without depending on anyone, though she was beginning to trust that, maybe together, they could liberate the city. Regardless of his words, Tsukuyo was never going to let them save Seta on their own, and she wanted to see if the Yorozuya could really bring light to this dark place. With the help of her new friends, Yoshiwara was saved, but even after that, Tsukuyo continued to see herself as a lone guardian, not just in regard to her duties, but to her heart as well. When he returned after the defeat of Hosen, Jiraia was disgusted to see that Tsukuyo was showing signs of becoming soft and reliant on Gintoki. The liberation of the city came at the cost of it becoming vulnerable to crime in Hosen's absence, and so Jiraia used this opportunity to conduct drug trafficking for the sole reason of luring in Tsukuyo. In Jiraiya's eyes, one can only be strong if they trust completely in their own skills and rely on no one to protect them. From Tsukuyo, he recognized the strength that came from selflessly sacrificing mind and body to protect the ones you love. It might have reminded him of his own distant past. In order to transform Tsukuyo into the warrior he wanted her to be, Jiraia had needed to leave her on her own so she wouldn't become codependent on him, so she herself would grow into the protector role. Thus, he had staged his death in a fire and abandoned her so she could become stronger on her own. When she tracked down the unbeknownst leader of the drug ring, she requested the aid of Gintoki once again, which Jiraia was counting on. Despite her warnings, Gintoki stood by her side as Jiraia threatened their lives. She wanted him to leave not just so he would be out of harm's way, but also so she could do what she did best, bear the burden of this battle all on her own. Because when Tsukuyo was alone, that was when she was at her strongest, without having to worry about protecting others in her immediate vicinity and without the comfort of a friend by her side, she could mechanically focus on the battle.
クモの巣というものはな、かかったと気づいた時にはもう遅いのさ。
As far as Tsukuyo could tell, Gintoki had died that night. But Jiraia didn't stop there. He planned to burn all of Yoshiwara to ash. With no one left to protect her, Tsukuyo would return to growing into the ultimate warrior for Jiraia to destroy, to realize his twisted vision, and to kill himself. Tsukuyo had mixed feelings about spending time with Gintoki and the others. They'd made her feel good and somewhat normal at times, but she also felt guilt in their presence. Guilt for not spending that time protecting her city, and guilt for letting her guard down around others. She feared becoming too comfortable around the ones she loved would result in her no longer being strong enough to protect them. That guilt persisted when Gintoki saved her from Jiraia. She was ashamed that she had to be saved by someone she was supposed to protect, someone she failed to protect. When Tsukuyo was about to beg him to save himself before Jiraia tried killing him again, Gintoki finally confronted her on her overly independent lifestyle.
逃げろなんてもう言わせねえよ。一人で何もかも背負い込もうなんざ水くせえじゃねえか。涙垂れ流して助けを乞いやがれ。鼻水垂れ流して俺にすがりやがれ。泣きてえ時には泣けばいいんだ。笑いたい時には笑えばいいんだ。てめえが醜い面で泣きわめいている時はそれ以上汚え面で泣いてやる。てめえが腹抱えて笑ってる時はそれ以上バカでかい声で笑ってやる。それでいいんだよ。てめえを捨てて潔く綺麗に死んでいくなんてことより、小汚くてもてめえらしく生きていくことの方がよっぽど上等だ。
While there are benefits to solitude, such as quieting the mind and discovering one's own values, life should not be experienced in total isolation. If you are distancing yourself from those you care about to protect them, then you are missing out on enriching your own soul through time spent with them. If you truly want to be strong, share your burdens with those willing to carry them with you. If you don't know anyone like that, keep searching. Put yourself out there through doing the things you love. Cry out for help, and one day, someone will answer. Jiraia said that Tsukuyo's friends are her burdens. Because he was using her attachment to them, he was going to kill them to make her suffer for defying him. But Gintoki proved that it's those bonds that would save her and the burning city from his cruelty. Jiraia grew up in a particularly war-torn part of the country. He belonged to one of the largest samurai families in that area, but the young Jiraia studied the ninja arts and became extremely proficient at them, even at such a young age. Feeling threatened by this family with such a talented progeny in line to take over, the other samurai slaughtered them, leaving only Jiraia and his sister. With her in their custody, they forced Jiraia to use his talents for their own means. In such a hopeless situation, Jiraia began losing his sense of self in order to hide from the shame of failing to protect his family and the shame of not having gotten to his enemy first. That was probably when he abandoned his family name, Tobita Danzo, and became Jiraia the Spider. Since then, he became conditioned to devoting his entire being to someone, to the point of becoming empty, and seeing his own cruelty festering not in himself, but projecting it onto them. His sister couldn't bear seeing him live like this, She wanted Jiraia to make the choice to live for himself. But her sacrifice only made Jiraiya's pain deeper, and he became even more obsessed with devoting himself to his enemy. He had lost all hope of living any other way. Eventually, probably after killing the samurai who took everything from him, he found new prey to devote himself to continue the cycle all over again. Ever since failing his sister, Jiraia sought a fitting punishment in the form of being taken out by the very thing he had become obsessed with. That was why he sided with the shogun during the Oniwaban Civil War. He probably hoped to be killed by the shogun's servants when he attempted to assassinate him. And that was why he chose Tsukuyo, whom he saw great potential within. But what he wasn't expecting was to actually care about her. He saw that she was growing up in a cruel place, that she was determined to change her surroundings, and so he didn't want her to experience the same pain that he had. He trained her not just to be strong enough to defeat her enemies, but also so she would be strong enough to live on her own without any help. Jiraia thought that, in the event she did lose someone, she would be so cold and mechanical that it wouldn't hurt her the same way it did with him. He actually wanted Tsukuyo to kill him, while she embodied an image of himself, but instead, she defeated him with the help of a friend, which was far removed from anything Jiraia would have done. He thought, how could his end come from a Tsukuyo who was weakened by love, weakened by the burden of being so close to someone? Jiraia was a coward who couldn't comprehend the idea of being strong enough to be close to others. He couldn't comprehend experiencing the pain of loss all over again. But what he had failed to see was that that burden was only as heavy as it was for him because he chose to carry it all by himself. Being alone didn't make him stronger, it only made him weaker. When Jiraia had seen Tsukuyo forming bonds, he doubled down on his obsessiveness for making her like him. He didn't want her to be out of his reach. That was why he wanted to kill Gintoki and the others. Ironically, despite the way he had lived for all those years, there was still a part of himself that didn't want to be left behind by Tsukuyo. He didn't want to be alone. Similar to how Jiraia had served his enemy to protect his sister, Gintoki was forced to kill his sensei to protect Takasugi and Katsura. This led both men to wallow in shame and regret for doing terrible things due to feeling like they had no choice due to being too weak. However, while Jiraia only went further down the path of self-destruction and loneliness, Gintoki had been saved by Otose, offered a home, and eventually found healing in forming new bonds. What Gintoki had found that Jiraia never did was that his failure was not the end. It wasn't his experiences, but his decision to live under Otose's roof and his decision to make new friends that allowed him to heal. While there may be things out of our control that we never have any hope of changing, life gives us opportunities to move past those things, to heal, to love. While Jiraiya's experiences greatly influenced him becoming the cruel monster he was, he always had a choice. After all, he had come across Tsukuyo. Instead of staging his death so she would grow stronger by herself, he could have chosen to stay with her and begin his life anew. Tsukuyo did what Jiraia never tried. She let other people in. She cared. She loved. She fought by their side. And while she didn't completely let her walls down, nor did she rely on them enough at first, it was her choice to try at all that brought Gintoki into her life, for him to help continue her healing process, just as he had done for himself. In the end, Tsukuyo had outgrown Jiraia, to the point of showing him, in his final moments, that a student is not supposed to rely on their master, but rather for both to carry their burdens together.
大した弟子だな。師匠を背負えるまで大きくなるのが弟子の務めか。俺は親父には背負われてばかりで、そんな真似してやれなんだな。
俺もだ。
Tsukuyo thought that her experiences were what made her who she was, but Gintoki assured her that it was her decisions that led to their triumph. Despite our pain, despite our actions influenced by our trauma, we always have a choice to be more than our experiences. We do not have to be defined by our past, but by our choices to move forward and to not do it alone. Class dismissed.